So first of all, welcome. I appreciate everyone coming out to our marketing themed kind of event, and I appreciate everyone kind of watching online and people watching in the future, watching a past event. So first of all, yeah, thank you for everyone coming out here. Thank you for kind of, over the past little while, the last two events have been unusual events. The last one was at BC. The one before that was in this location at an earlier time, so it feels good to be kind of back in here. So thank you to the community, thank you to everyone. Thank you to kind of Milton as well for being able to sponsor the events overall. So, we couldn't do this without them and with the hard work of Milton being able to actually sponsor the events. And again, it feels good to be back here. I like this venue, I like this vibe. It is a lot less stuffier than the bank, nothing against the bank, but this is obviously a different vibe than what it was. So, pros and cons. So 5 agenda items here. I'm going to try and go through my stuff as fast as I can, so that's why it's quick. Sean, which is why everyone's here. Marketing panel with Sean and. I wanted you to introduce yourself. Sorry, that was not clear.
Laura Pearson.
Cool. Open mic, we try and do this every time as well. 5 slots. Last time I felt bad and I cut people off, so there we go. And then general networking as well, and we can watch the Leafs hopefully win, but we'll see how that goes. All right, so let's hop into kind of my updates. Again, I want to make this quick. First one is just sorry that I haven't been super active in the community in the past month. There's been a lot of things that have been going on from my side. It's one of the things that I really want to see to succeed overall, and I feel like I haven't given my 110% in this. So not many of you might have noticed, which is completely fine, but I know from myself that I can do more. So just an apology for me, this is a very Canadian thing I feel. That I'm just generally sorry that I haven't put out the 110% effort into this, but going forward is there's a lot of things planned. We talked about them at the last couple of events. I was going to cement them in here as well, but yeah, we'll see as we go. So first of all, welcome to Tanya. You'll hear from her just a little bit later, kind of close to the end of the presentation, but she's coming on and helping out, kind of doing all the Milton innovation stuff. Previously from Mido and MoveSnap. Helping run communications, sponsorships, things like that. So kind of everything, really helping out with everything. It's a 2-person team right now, so there's no divide and conquer other than me dealing with the worst live streaming setup I've ever had. That's all me. But yeah, so welcome. Next 2 things, we are looking in the middle of trying to get a programming leader. So we talked about doing programming, whether it's classes, courses, workshops, things like that. We're in the middle of closing a leader to come on board to help craft some of this programming. So we will be asking you for, hey, what are the things that you want to see? What are things that you want to be able to do? And that way we can make sure we can craft the information around that to be able to provide you for what you need. And the other side is I'm looking for volunteers. So I want to be able to make sure that the community can also give back, outside of just joining from here, being able to help run events, monitor social, run social overall. There's a lot that I'm going to learn from marketing as well, because it's a lot that I struggle in for this. So I'm excited for tonight just personally. So at the end of the day, we're here to help you start, build, and grow. And I've shown this slide off a couple times and I really like it, so I keep coming back to it, which is all the ways that we can help you build your company. Whether it's you're a founder, future founder, entrepreneur, so you're actually inside of an organization, you're a startup team, you're new to tech. These are all ways that we can help you. And again, I steal this from Tech.to, full disclosure, I stole it from them. But we are sitting in the same kind of ballpark. So if you're trying to find your co-founder, if you're trying to discover how you add value, if you're trying to really adopt the founder mindset across the board, these are all things that we want to be able to help provide, either from myself or someone on the community to be able to help this community ultimately grow. So we are launching 3 new initiatives. I posted these on the Facebook group, so go ahead and make sure you follow the Facebook group. I talked about them at the last event, but again, there's a lot of new faces relative to the last event, so we're just going to go recap these. The first one's on the support side, so help you start. So ecosystem, resources, and discovery. What does this actually mean? Ecosystem is trying to make sure that Milton Innovation is working with all the local communities, all the local incubators, all the local accelerators to make sure that you guys have a good understanding of all the pieces that actually are available to you. If you need to do 3D printing prototypes, do you know where to go? Maybe not, but we can be able to connect you to the people who are going to be able to do that. On the resources side, it's really about who's the best in class, who do we want to actually trust. So when you say that, hey, you want to do marketing, well, we have some marketing people that we know that have been trusted, have been vetted by Milton, who have given back to the community, and you have the ability to go find them, reach out. So you're not reaching out to some mom and pop shop that might be charging you an arm and a leg without actual conversions. This is just a marketing example. And then discovery is we want to highlight what you're building. We want to highlight, hey, you're building this startup, you're building this community, you're building all of these things. Let's highlight you in the community. Let's build your success story. Let's build your case study. Whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's on the site, whether it's something like that, being able to actually support what you guys are building. So that's the support side. The programming, community-led workshops. So we have a few workshops we're in the middle of building out right now. We are very close to having a machine learning one. That was one request that came up, so we're very, very close to that. That's a 101, 102, 103 course. Idea validation is something that we're working on internally. So myself, I'm a product manager. I've done a lot of 0 to 1 startups. I'm working at a company right now doing a 0 to 1 product. So going through and actually helping people out with that. So there's 10 spots that are available for this. I think 5 of them are taken up, and this is something that we're hoping to spin up. It was supposed to be in April. Again, back to my story slide. Haven't been able to do that, so we're hoping to kick off kind of early May. And then one-to-one mentorship is really around the aspect of you might need someone that, some actual support or champion in your corner, and being able to actually have a mentor to be able to back you up, whether it's, again, marketing, whether it's development, whether it's product management, something like that, being able to actually have a mentorship. And then the membership overall. So obviously as we do more and more of these, we're going to have more and more styles of events. So being a member coming out to these events is always free, outside of the beer, food will always be provided. Water's provided to them, 95% sure. So there's other ones here that will be digital access, all access, and innovator, and these are all different tiers. These are all available on the website. Well, I went through these in the past 2 events, so I don't want to go super, super deep, but if you want to chat about anything on this page, this is how we're going to help you start, help you build, help you grow. So we want to be able to have a success story from here about a person who's started a company, gone through, built it all the way to IPO. That is my dream, to be able to help support someone through that cycle. I've spent a whole lot of time in Silicon Valley. I've gone through this cycle. I want to be able to bring those expertises back. I want to be able to support this team to be able to do things like that. My remote died. Awesome. So we have some upcoming events, but I'm going to let Tanya kick it off and talk about the next upcoming events. I think it's worthwhile to let her get some time on here, and then we'll be introducing Sean. But for right now, feel free to introduce yourself and talk about next event.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mike. Live stream. Perfect. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for coming out. We're competing against the Leafs tonight, and fingers crossed that we do win. Home game, Bruins. Over for the Leafs. Next month, we're actually focusing on networking. We've heard from our members quite clearly, and we've heard from future members, so students returning back home for the summer, or perhaps just newly graduating, that folks are looking to understand what does networking look like and feel like post-COVID. The world has changed. What have we learned? What's different, and how we do it? And so I will be hosting a workshop, nuts and bolts, and how do you effectively network, both in person and remote. Everything from the handshake to how do you have your elevator speech ready. We'll walk through the whole gamut. So if you're looking to expand your network outside of your own community or outside of your own company, if you're looking for a new job, or if you're looking just to build out, who you know, come on out next month. It will be in a different location. It is sponsored by Starbucks, because often we network over coffee. That's usually the first sign. Hey, can I take you for a cup of coffee? That's a sign you're about to go networking. So Starbucks is sponsoring next month, and feel free to join us. We'll have it on the last Wednesday of the month, as always. Now, it is my pleasure tonight to introduce our next speaker.
Oh, I don't have those slides ready. Do you want those? Give me a second.
Okay, I'll just keep talking while we get that slide ready. But our speaker tonight is Sean Matthews. I had the pleasure of working with Sean Matthews when I was the CEO of MoveSnap. And Sean helped us establish our brand. Who were we? What was the image for MoveSnap? And what was the vision of where we wanted to go? He was very succinct, he was very clear, and frankly, he's an expert in this field. Sean has an extensive career in marketing and strategy, an extensive and successful career in marketing and strategy, both in Canada and international experience. And frankly, he's a trusted advisor that I turn to regularly. So even though we don't officially work together anymore, he is certainly a shoulder that I lean on, and an excellent consultant that I would recommend to anybody and everybody. So Sean, gracefully and gratefully that he brought out his expertise tonight. He's going to walk us through some of the do's and don'ts of marketing. We're in a bit of a dip in the economy right now. Generally speaking, marketing is the first cut. So if you are running your own business, or if you're launching your own startup or your own fintech as an example, how do you invest? Where do you invest? What are the pitfalls to avoid? And Sean's going to walk us through all of that tonight. So I know all of you are very interested and eager to hear what Sean has to say. So I will step aside and pass it to the master himself. So welcome, Sean. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Hi guys, good evening everyone. Thanks for coming out tonight. Before I introduce myself a little bit, I'll just talk about the topic that I want to delve into, which is lean marketing for startups. And when I talk about lean marketing, what does it mean? It means being a lot more strategic, putting strategy before tactics, being a lot more agile, sharp, and creative, especially in a time when money is scarce, right? For startups to begin with, money is already scarce. And then during this time, it's even worse. And so you need to get sharper, and that's the only thing that can help you get more effective with your strategy. Now, in the startup world, I often heard this term called scrappy. I'm sure everyone has heard that term, scrappy. And I totally applaud it. In the universe that we live, in that kind of an ecosystem, we need to be scrappy. But what I believe is that strategy is that thing that keeps the S screwed onto that word scrappy. If that S drops off, you know what it turns out to be, crappy. Okay? So I can't emphasize enough of the importance of strategy even before you get into tactics. I have a lot of conversation with founders where the first conversation is, how do we create an ad on Facebook? How do we go to market? That's the first question. It's never about stepping back and developing strategy, right? And I hope everyone in this room feels otherwise and you buy into the concept of how strategy is more important than tactics. So before I get into the real presentation, I'm just going to give you a little brief about myself. Close to 2 decades of experience in brand and marketing across 4 different countries. I've done it in Singapore, the Middle East. I'm originally from India, and now I'm in North America. So I'm basically spanning the whole globe, getting a great experience of all the different cultures and the insights that I've accumulated over the years. My last gig, I was working with RBCX, and I had the good fortune of growing, or not just authoring the strategy for 14 different ventures, but 3 of the ventures I was associated with from scratch, day one. And in 5 years, we really built those up to great brands. But I've also done the big brand kind of work, the Toyotas, Canon, Singapore tourism and all of that. And the only difference that I see between big brands and startups is that the big brands have a little bit more luxury of time, and they introduce a lot more rigor into the whole process because they have the time and the money to do it. But it doesn't mean that startups cannot invest their time in strategy, right? You don't have the big money, but there's other ways of how you can build your brand and go to market without busting the bank. Sorry, I think I need 2 slides. Yeah, okay, this is my next slide.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I always love to start with vision as a conversation. And this is a Japanese proverb that I really liked. It's very descriptive of some of the companies that we see out there. It says vision without action is daydreaming, and action without vision is a nightmare. So many of us may have had this experience of working with a company where you're constantly spinning and you're wondering why that's happening. It's probably because of a lack of vision, right? And both of these are not desirable because one, the first half of the sentence describes you not moving forward. The second one, you're moving really fast, but in the wrong direction, right? And so how do you overcome that? While it's great to have an overview articulation of what your vision is, it's important that you break it down into tangible milestones. And that is my next template that I normally share with clients, where you can have this overarching vision, but then let's talk about how do you see yourself 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. You can also reduce that. In the startup world, you can also do it 1 year, 3 year, 5 years. Depending, some people have told me that, we don't know what's going to happen 5 years, 10 years down the line. That's fine, you can have smaller milestones. But it's very important for you to know what's that headline that you're going to achieve in that time frame. What are you going to stand for? What's your product going to look like? what's the measure of success, and finally, you can have financial KPIs as well. In the first year, you may not have a financial goal, but there's other ways of how you measure your success, right? And this is one template that ensures that you marry vision with action, and it's not just left there as a statement that you visit once in a couple of years and say, I'm not heading in the right direction, I'm not getting there. Sorry. The next slide.
This one?
Right. So beyond vision, I think one of the biggest issues that I've seen in many startups is, are they asking themselves the right questions? One of the first questions that I've asked my clients is, how are you different from your competition, right? And invariably I get a list of features, tangible stuff, but that's not the way consumers really think, right? They buy with their heart and then rationalize with their head. So to give you an example of a very tangible space where we found something that is a thinking that is driven by the head, but we converted that into a language and culture that's prevalent in the category. I'd like to give you the example of Dr. Bill, where when we started out, we were late entrants into the category, and we realized that medical practitioners suffer from inertia. They don't want to change their billing solution. And that's only because they don't know what's really going wrong. When we looked at competition, we realized that many of the competitors, they had faulty codes. When they submit the claims, those claims get rejected. And the practitioners can't be bothered to follow up with those claims, so they're actually losing money on the table, right? And what was good about Dr. Bill was that beyond having a great product, where all the codes are close to perfect, we also had a backend in terms of customer service that would get notified about any of those rejections, and they would follow up and make sure that the doctors are not losing money, right? And so when we found this tangible insight, but the way we positioned it is in a language that medical practitioners really understand, which is we will reposition competition to say that in the world of generalists, right, Dr. Bill is the specialist. What we make sure is that you don't lose money because of all these tangible proofs. So the tangible proofs came later, but the language was in a way they understand depending on their category, right? So differentiation is key. The question is, how do you communicate that differentiation in a way that is defensible? The other question, I think, very important question, ask if you've got an ugly baby, right? It's not important if you go to consumers and ask them, is my product good? It doesn't matter. Ask them tough, open-ended questions in terms of what do they think is missing? What are we doing wrong? If they say that we've got an ugly baby, what would they do to make it pretty? Right? And sometimes it's not the problem with the baby. Sometimes it's a problem with the consumer, in the eyes of the beholder, we say, right? Beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. And that's a good example would be the situation of right product, wrong customer. I tell you, after this example, you'll understand the relevance of the visual. But this is not a startup kind of an example, but way back when, it was a very relevant example to help understand this principle. So when in America, way back when wallpapers were really taking off, that's a long time ago, there was an engineer and an innovator who came together. They decided to make an MVP, and they fused two sheets of plastic together, creating an air bubble between. And they went to consumers saying that this is the new wallpaper texture. What do you think about it? Guess what consumers probably told them? You've got a bloody ugly baby, right? But then these guys didn't give up. They asked themselves the right question, which is, where else can this product be very useful? And where do you think this product is now? It's in the packaging industry, the right consumer. So there's a good example of right product, wrong consumer, right? So I couldn't find a better example to emulate this, so I went back into history to find this. But I'm sure that we can find a similar example even in the startup environment today. The other questions, very important questions. I think when I work with clients and I ask them questions about the consumer's mindset, pain points, barriers and motivators, what I get is a lot of product research that has been done, but I scarcely get the answer to these questions. Now, If you can't answer these questions, I think no matter what you do, no matter how much of marketing you do, you can't generate sales if you don't get this right. I found a very interesting tool that I use to be able to understand these motivators. It's called the personal pyramid. And the personal pyramid, like, it helps bridge the gap between, the tech startup founder's mindset versus bridging it to the consumer. So what I normally do is I start off with the product features, laddering it up to product benefits, then laddering it up to personal benefits. And you'll be able to find a differentiator when you reach somewhere up here. Now this is for Meetup, one of the brands that we worked on, where the key motivator for parents was that it helps set my kids up for success in the future. Very bland. It's something that banking industry would probably do if they were running a fund or whatever. But we took this the next step further to ask about how you can creatively interpret this. And success in the future, we defined it as non-monetary. We defined it as the life that they want to live, and money being a means to the life that they want to live, right? So we talked about values. We said what Mido does is inculcate the right values so that they use money as the means to create the life that they want, right? And then all of a sudden you're talking about values like confidence and caring and social good, or whatever, wherever you want to take it to. So I think there's a bit of a creative leap there as well, that when you get a motivator, you don't take it as face value, you take it to the next level. So I think once you've understood your consumer well enough, we do something called, identifying your core values, because it has to come from the consumer. At the end of the day, you're trying to connect with the consumer. You can't divorce your core value from the consumer. So what I typically do is a good exercise where you have the top 3 words that come to your mind about your brand. And then against each of those words, you start populating as many words that you've heard from the consumer. And what you think is associated with those 3 words. The top priority will be on the word that gets the most associations, right? So it could be one value, but it could be multiple values as well. Why is this important? Is because this governs the behavior of your organization in a manner that will resonate with your consumer group, right? So people normally come up with values and put it up there and they forget about it. It's very important for culture. It's also very important for resonating with your audiences, with your behavior. There's a big myth in startup marketing where they think that marketing is only for big brands. And we pay for marketing when we can afford it, right? I love to call this the Nike syndrome. And the way the script goes is that, hey, it's easy for Nike to create a big campaign. They've got endless amount of money. They're number 1 in the sporting category. I'm just a small brand. I can't really do that, right? And so you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy that you'll never do marketing until you get the money, but you'll never get the money until you do marketing, right? And so I want to ask everyone in the room, have you ever heard of a company called Blue Ribbon Marketing? Blue Ribbon Sports, sorry. Blue Ribbon Sports, nobody? Blue Ribbon Sports. Don't give the answer. Don't give the answer. So Blue Ribbon Sports was a startup in a different time that didn't have big budgets. They didn't have, the fancy marketing dollars to go and, do a big splash. So what they did was, they gave their athletic footwear to students, college students, to play with it and give them feedback, right? And those college students turned out to be professional pros. And with that, the popularity of Blue Ribbon Sports grew. And now, what is Blue Ribbon Sports called? Nike, right? Now, it took Nike 20 years to get to where it was in those days, right? But when they started off, they were a startup, pretty much distributing free samples and hoping they'll get some mileage out of it. So, it doesn't matter where you start from. There's still a possibility that you can create brands and you can create very powerful brands, right? The reason why I'm talking about brands is because that's something that startups don't focus as much on, and they focus a lot more on acquisition. I can understand that. But you need to have a good balance between these 2 things, because one day you're going to become a big brand, right? So here's a nice quote from Seth Godin, which says in a crowded marketplace, fitting is failure. In a busy marketplace, not standing out is the same as being invisible. And why I'm saying this is because when we hire, let's say we are a tech company and we are hiring a product development person, what kind of a person would you hire? Would you hire the best, or you would hire a junior? Who would you hire? Anyone? Hire the best, right? Product development, very important. Unfortunately, when it comes to marketing, the same companies hire very junior people and expect miracles out of that junior person, right? This is a personal experience where I met a client and I was talking about how they should work on strategy, and the client was also excited because they recently hired a growth marketer, and not a very senior growth marketer, but a growth marketer. And he was super excited that in the next 6 months he's going to see some real great acquisitions, right? Fortunately, I met the client 6 months later, or even after that, right? It was not exactly 6 months, but we did bump into each other. And I asked him, how's things going? And he said that he had to let go of his growth marketer because they didn't achieve the acquisition targets. And again, I started the conversation about how strategy is important before you get into growth. And it still didn't get it. So I think there are camps of people who understand strategy. I've had enough conversations with people who understand the importance of strategy, and the others will keep doing what they do, right? But I'm on a mission to let people know that the moment you adopt strategy, it's a far more powerful tool than just running tactics. Sorry. Okay. So throughout the presentation, I'll keep giving you a little bit of templates and tools that you can use yourself. I'm sure after this workshop, we'll send this over to you. In case you want to play around with those tools, you can do that. And one of them is crafting your own value proposition, right? Like even before you start crafting your value proposition, you need to have these 3 components articulated with you. One is, who are we for? The target audience that faces a particular problem. How are we different? How do we solve the same problem differently? And what is the end benefit to the consumer, which is obviously linked to our differentiation, right? When you have these 3 components, it's very easy for you to say that we are the only ones who help this consumer achieve this from a benefit perspective, right? So value props, super important. Spend time in crafting them because they can make a world of difference. Now coming to brand, a lot of it is also brand that I talked about previously, but this is one misconception that I found quite a lot, where the word branding is interchanged with brand, right? And brand is more than just branding. It's about the perception you create in the minds of the people, but it's also something that the glue that holds the entire organization together and puts it, it's a promise you make and you deliver it through your actions, right? So it's not just a visual identity, which many people mistake it for, right? I love this next book that was written by Simon Sinek. I don't know how many of you have come across this, but it's the concept. He says, start with the whys. Has anyone read this book? Right. So the why is the purpose of why you exist, right? In the case of Mido that I talked about earlier, the purpose was to help the next generation live the life that they want or craft the life that they want using money as a medium, right? That's a very different purpose from saying I just want to make the next generation literate about money, which is one talks about materialism, the other one talks about values, right? Likewise, in the case of Nike, it's about making sure that they inspire and innovate with athletic footwear. But the purpose is articulated as if you have a body, you can be an athlete, right? So starting with the why gives you that real top level purpose, followed by when you come to how, it's the differentiator. We talked about the differentiator earlier, so I'm not going to dive into that, but it's how do you deliver that, and then what do you deliver is the tangible aspects of things. That's when you start talking about features or offerings that you have which are unique, right? Still got to be unique, but it's more tangible in that sense. There's another book which I think is very interesting, Think, Do, Say, because that helps you understand how to bring a brand alive. right? Which is about how you want them to think about your purpose. What are the actions that you perform in order to help people understand and what your brand is all about, which is the culture, and then communications. How do you communicate your brand so that it's all aligned? So, emphasizing the importance of brand. Without a narrative, even your communication that you put out there cannot be as effective as it can be, right? A lovely narrative that I love to talk about is the hero-villain narrative, right? Every narrative has got to have the story arc where there's a hero and there's a villain. It's a very age-old thing that has been followed quite a bit in the CPG industry, and they have done it with very effective. The moment, it's like the school of P&G or Unilever's. You'll see all their ads pretty much have the same kind of formula, only because it's very effective. Right? Without a villain, they can't be a hero. Right? So you need to have a problem that you're solving for in order to dramatize how great you are. Right? Example, Dove. The enemy is harsher chemical kind of substitutes that's available in the market. And I can go on with Tide against bargain cleaners. Bargain cleaners can't get to the level at which Tide gets. And it's competitive. You see most of the ads are like that, right? And Nivea again. Here the enemy or the villain is those stains, right? They're not. So your villain doesn't have to be your competition. It can be a concept. It can be a philosophy that you stand by, right? The benefit of doing that is you're able to dramatize how great your product is and give consumers a very clear understanding of why they should buy you and not competition. So all these things normally sum up into a nice thing. One more thing I'd love to talk to you about is positioning, and then promise I'll get to a summary kind of a thing, which is the marketing blueprint, which will bring everything nicely together. Right? So positioning is about finding a space that's, you've got three things that you need to look at. One is the consumer insight and what's the relevance, the competitive space and where's the gap, right? And finally, your brand credibility. Can you credibly deliver to the consumer insight that you're looking at on the other side? When you find this sweet spot here, that's where you position your brand, right? It can be a price differentiator, it could be a product differentiator, whatever be it. But it has to be something that you can credibly deliver and it resonates with the consumer. And finally, to sum this all up, what I love to do is come up with a marketing blueprint. Everything's empty here because I can't show you any client work. But basically what I do is I come up with your target audience persona name, your insight for the target audience. You've got your purpose. Next is your value props, which we've talked about. And then the reasons to believe, which is the next level of rational benefits that you offer your consumer. So to make sure that once you attack the heart, you're resonating with the mind as well, right? And then your values, which we talked about. And finally, you need to have the objectives and KPIs that you're working towards for the year. Right. Once you have this, everything else becomes very simple. You can keep going back to this and referring, are you aligned with your brand, with your marketing plan, and you can never stray off from something like this. So the next thing I'd like to say for startups who don't have a lot of money, the first thing to do is obviously look at your own channels. I'd like to say that your own channels is the window through which you say hello to the world. Make sure that it's your best hello, right? When you do your website, it's not about talking about yourself, but about the person's life and the person who you're trying to attract, how you're going to benefit them, right? The next channel that you can actually think about, everybody knows this, but social media, it's not that you're supposed to be on every channel that's out there. You've got to look at what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to build a community? Then it'll be Facebook. Is it also aligned with the audience that you're trying to connect with? If you're more in the educational space, then it's YouTube, right? Because you need to educate people. Video is the best way to do it. Instagram, if you're more in the creative flair, pictures is your way of storytelling. Likewise, if you're addressing the professional audience and you want to bring out thought leadership, it'll be LinkedIn, and so on, right? So you need to evaluate why do you need to be on that channel, And honestly, I say less is more. Don't spread yourself too thin. Take channel by channel and build, right? Start with 2 channels and build from there. Don't try to do everything at one go. It's a recipe for disaster, right? And when you look at social, I have a tool which is very useful in coming up with your content for social. I call it the story map. And basically think of this as writing a book, where the theme is nothing but the cover of your book, which is what your audiences will get to know you for as a result of reading through all the chapters, right? The next part is the chapters, which is, are there 12, 13, 14 chapters? I don't know, you could have 50 chapters, but you need to have some good headings which will give you enough content for you to talk about below each chapter. Then the tone of voice, that goes back to your brand. But in order to differentiate yourself, you need to have a distinct tone of voice and a consistent tone of voice so that people recognize you the moment you put up something there, right? And then the communities. Which are the communities that you can actually get engaged in order to amplify your message? If you're a brand talking to on baby products, then moms are the best ones that you should be reaching out. There are tons of moms communities out there. How do you participate with them? How do you engage them? How do you use them to amplify your cause? And now that we've talked a lot about strategy, I want to talk about the priorities from a tactical perspective for startups 0 to 1. Basically, there's a lot of text on the slide, but I'll send this over to you guys so that you can use this as a reference. Basically, this is build the foundation kind of phase, right? Where from a marketing perspective, you need to do research, a lot more research. I think startups don't invest enough in research because it's expensive, but you can do it on your own, right? Try to understand those early positive signals of marketing traction. Try to understand the 3 C's of your business, which is consumer, cost, competition. I would say I'd add another C, which is understanding the culture in which you operate, right? And the next thing is actually building up the fundamental marketing channels like your website, your lead capture mechanism, your tracking for analytics. Email marketing, you can choose a service provider based on how, whether you're thinking about today or for the future. I think there are some good tools like MailChimp that you could start with, but HubSpot is a good option. Salesforce obviously is for enterprise, so I wouldn't recommend it for startups. But I've seen startups who use modules from Salesforce, right? The next thing is to begin your messaging test across different channels, which is paid, content, social, email, and SEO. I would say that I'm a big believer of doing a lot of content because I've seen a lot of our ventures at RBC succeeded during COVID. Or the ones that succeeded during COVID were the ones who invested a lot in content and social before COVID, right? So an example is Arrive. Arrive started with a big push. I don't know if much of you know about Arrive. It's a platform to help newcomers settle in Canada. So they started off with a lot of content, and even before COVID. So when COVID came around and everyone was forced to shut off their advertising, Arrive shut off their advertising as well, but they were getting 70,000 monthly visitors to their website every month because of the content that they had done in the past. You see? So that's one, cost-effective way you're investing your time in creating content. And again, many people will say, oh, it's easy these days with AI, you can churn out a lot of content, but that's content that is not differentiated in a way. You're writing content for humans, right? So you need to have a good mix of the SEO kind of content versus the brand kind of content. And I would say invest a bit of time in creating your narrative through brand kind of content. And finally, set up your partnership ecosystem, right? Like who are the partners that you can leverage in order to build your outreach. And so I would say the priority marketing channels would be obviously your paid media if you've got the budget, but if not, focus on content marketing to a greater level, email marketing, social marketing, and then SEO is absolutely essential if you're doing content anyway, right? And then in terms of KPIs, it's about the target user that you've reached, your cost of reach, your engagement rate, cost of engagement. Those are the kind of things you're trying to figure out because that would be the base to prove that you actually have a clear funnel, you have a product and brand that people are actually resonating with, and that would build your base for the next level, right? So I know that there was quite a bit that we talked about. I'm always happy to take questions even after the session. Like if you think of something, you can email me and ask me. And I'm always excited to answer any marketing question. So this is all I have for you guys today. And hopefully this was useful. And if you have any requirements where you need some help, I'm always a call away. I can give you my number.
Any questions for right now? We're going to do a panel in a minute. So any questions on the slides?
Yeah.
Thanks, Sean, for the rest of the presentation. Very. Thank you for the rest of the presentation. It's very enlightening and inspiring, actually. My question is the following: have you seen through your experience as RBX lead or support on, let's say, the marketing domain? Have you seen startups that don't go through because they think the marketing budget is out of whack or out of budget, out of control? So, I deal with venture studio and venture building, and sometimes I see a concept that requires tons of marketing as opposed to MVP. The ratio doesn't fit. Just forget it.
Yeah,
It's something that you actually see.
And I think it's, a startup in ventures used to be evaluated from so many different parameters. And I think, Tanya, you could speak to this as well. It's never a case where you go and present a marketing budget that's out of whack and they kill your venture, right? Because they've already prescribed how you're going to present to the committee, right? So every venture that we start up, there's a sound rationale as to why that venture exists, and their budgets are very different, right? If we feel that a B2C venture needs a higher budget, they would definitely let them have it. For example, Mido's budget was probably one of the highest amongst all other ventures in marketing.
As a ratio, percentage.
Percentage, Tanya?
Seed funding.
Percentage of funding?
Of seed funding, let's say. Round A or seed funding.
Mine was probably 50%.
Sorry?
For mine, it was over 50%.
50% was the marketing budget, yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, but that's because it's a B2C and you need to pump in that kind of money, right? If you're dealing with another B2B, like let's say Dr. Bill. Dr. Bill is targeting medical practitioners, and you don't have those they do have a decent budget, but it's not as high as Mido.
Yeah. Can I borrow your mic first? I'll just add a bit of flavor. Just borrowing this one so everyone online can hear too. Sean is spot on here. So it's really not about how much you spend on marketing. It's when you spend on marketing and who your audience is that you're spending marketing on. So as an example, Mido had a higher budget. We were B2C. There was product market fit, already established product market fit. My former venture, we waited until we knew we had product market fit before we did the marketing spend. And so the marketing spend was significantly less. We focused on brand content more so than getting the name out there, because we needed to make sure it resonated and we were drawing in the users. But we very carefully in both ventures track the funnels from top to bottom, right? So if you have any leakage or drop-off points, then there's no point spending before you know that it's driving the right consumers. So you may have a great product, but if it's the wrong audience, it's not going to work.
But again, Tanya, to add to that, like the funnel differs from category to category as well. And in the case of Mido, the reason why you would see a lot of drop-off is because there were so many steps before a person actually registers as a user, right? Like the parents have got to first register, then they've got to add a card, then they've got to invite their kid, and the kid has got to be connected, then they got to transfer money. Crazy funnel. So there's bound to be like a 80% drop-off. So then you've got to feed the funnel with a larger number of people, and hence you need higher marketing dollars there.
If there's no other question, may I ask this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, my second question is pertaining to startups that operate in stealth, bootstrap and stealth. So I like your proverbs you use actually, if you have ugly each other, just ask. It's very interesting, but nonetheless, sometimes you cannot really ask too much, because if you do, you'll break the stealth mode and you'll be at risk of, keep in mind, many bootstrap startups don't really have big budgets, so they have one shot of getting from -1 to 0 fast before actually the concept is out and probably people with, investors with deeper pockets would just move on. So how would you go about doing some marketing research as a basic, let's say, sanity check before jumping or diving in?
Yeah, we would. Even in even though we were backed by a lot of by RBC and many of our ventures didn't have the money to invest in big research, right? So we would rely on our existing users as one base, and then we try to find non-users as a smaller base on our own. But we would do the research ourselves, right? So when you're bootstrapped, you just got to roll up your sleeves and get it done, right? I've seen the founders going out and talking to people.
And the stealth part.
Yeah.
Not just the bootstrap part, the stealth part. Being, like undercover and not.
Yeah, but is the reason that you're in stealth mode because you want to prove your product, right?
You want to avoid being, the first dumb mover, the first mover advantage to become a disadvantage.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'm assuming that you're testing your product and that's the reason why you need to be in stealth mode, right?
Yes.
In which case, I'm not going to tell you to go out and do a big burst because that's not your objective, right? If you're bootstrapped and you want to be in stealth mode, then when you're ready for marketing, that's when you should start. Until then, you're trying out product market fit, right? Trying to acquire small bases of consumers, getting their feedback about the product and refining the product until you're ready. So that's a business objective. And marketing cannot go against the business objective.
Thank you.
Pass the microphone and the floor back to our fantastic marketing experts. Okay, I'll introduce myself quickly since Sean was. Go Leafs! Woo! Okay, so I'm Lauren Pearson. You might have seen little rubber duckies around. That's my company, Dynamic Duck. Just a little history from me. I most recently worked with the town of Milton as a liaison for the Digital Main Street program. So during that time, I worked with over 200 small businesses here in Milton, helping them with their marketing support. So during that time, I realized that there were a lot of agencies that were taking advantage of small business owners because they didn't understand what marketing principles were and what they needed as a small business owner. And so to kind of comprehend that, I decided to start up Dynamic Duck as a way to continue that knowledge transfer to small business owners and to entrepreneurs so that they can understand what marketing principles are and what is important and what's not important. So if you look behind us, we have this slide here. This is the marketing trifecta. So it goes through and it talks a little bit about earned media, paid media, and owned media. So it gives you an idea of how, as you're developing your marketing strategy, how having little bits of information in each one of those buckets and then how they all work together so that you can create a very good comprehensive marketing strategy that will help you succeed. So Sean and I can speak to those things and answer any questions that you have.
I mean, we did cover
mics.
Sorry.
Both mics.
Both mics.
2 hands.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, so you missed everything.
Oh,
No, we got it.
You're good. I talk loud.
I think we did speak a bit about the paid side of things and the owned media. I think the earned media was something that I didn't talk enough about. And so your earned media would be any kind of PR collaboration that you can strike up. Influencers who are not so expensive, they're micro influencers that you could use, right? That's the modern day PR. So I would say those are easier ways for you to get mileage without paying an arm and a leg. But the moment you get into paid, there's a certain minimum levels that you need to start spending in order to start getting the results. Right?
Yep. And I think an area that a lot of people are questioning right now is SEO. Because a lot of advertising techniques that have worked in the past are just not working in this current economy, especially when it comes to luxury goods and things of that nature. So I think having a good SEO strategy in place is really important, and I think that that's one area that unknowing business owners can really get trapped because There are businesses out there that will take advantage of you or that you may not be able to see the efforts of what they're doing. So understanding SEO practices and the ability to understand what is the competitive analysis. So when I work with a business on SEO, the first thing that I do is conduct a competitive analysis and show where their competitors are and what the listings are that they have so that they can see like directories that they're not listed as part of or things that they can do as a business owner to really get that first boost in your SEO. And then identifying your keywords, identifying the things that really matter to you. So I know Sean spoke quite a bit about the why. Why are you doing certain things? So really understanding what are those keywords, what are the things that are really going to make you stand out as a business owner, and what is going to solve that problem that you're creating a solution for. And what is that solution? And so really getting those targeted keywords that are going to help convey that solution is really what's important when it comes to SEO. So you want to make sure that you have the right person in place for you so that they're identifying those things and working through and not just using blanket templates or putting you out into directories that really don't have a lot of value.
So we had a question from you.
Yeah.
I promised you I will not forget the question.
Probably. Okay, so I also got a chance to think about it a little bit more. So let me rephrase it. I just generally want to understand from marketers' perspective, what is the general feeling about AI, the good and bad and ugly? From your perspective, do you think it's a threat, something that you can leverage and make it an ally and like produce more content, more relevant content? How do you guys see it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my view about the AI generated content, if it's, if there's not enough effort put into the programming, then, it tends to be very generic, right? And by virtue of the way AI is today, it's more retrospect rather than, coming up with new ideas and new creative areas and things like that. So whether will AI get better? Definitely it will get better. You need to put effort into programming in order to get better outputs. You can definitely use it as a complementing strategy with generating your own content as well, right? So it's a hybrid model the way I see it, because I have talked to a number of other content creators, and from their perspective, they believe that the human connection that comes through content is currently missing in AI generated content. Right? So I would recommend playing with it from a hybrid perspective until the AI becomes far better. But I don't know at what stage it's going to be future, new ideas kind of AI generated. Right?
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I would say that I use AI as more of an idea generator. So just to give me kind of a basic template for what I'm working through. So by nature, marketing is very creative and very mentally consuming, I guess, trying to come up with new creative concepts. And so for me, AI has helped me to kind of template some of the stuff that I'm doing so that I can be genuine in my approach to marketing. And I think that that's what is important, is taking AI only to a certain level and then using that to then create and add in that human element back in. I think there's a lot of things to be said as well, like for example with some of the AI generative tools, coaching the tool itself. So there's certain prompts that you want to put into AI to really get it to give you the result that you're looking for. So if you were to just put in a generic prompt of write me an essay on this, this, and this, then it's not the same as you are an expert in this field and you have this, this, and this, and you give it some backbone to go ahead and create, because it gives you a lot better and a lot more accurate generation. So I think learning some of those prompts and then also just not forgetting the genuine elements of it. I'm a very genuine person. I love to go out and meet with people, and that's just who I am. And it's tough when you meet people that are just so, hello, my name is Lauren, nice to meet you. Like it's just, you have to add that genuine element, and each person in this room has something that you're passionate about, right? And letting that passion come through in the work that you're doing so that so it isn't a mundane day-to-day task, right? So whether you're a programmer and you're passionate about a certain type of programming piece or about a project that you have going on,
let that shine through and make sure that whoever's helping you from a marketing perspective, that they share that passion or that they understand what that passion is, because you don't want to get into a long, drawn-out marketing piece where you lose your ability to share what your business is and make sure that you stay on task.
You know, I just wanted to mention, so for my, so I'm in marketing, okay? And so one of the reasons I use AI, is it's very good for A/B testing. So you give it, content, it gives you different versions. You do email scripts, it gives you different versions. They're not perfect, but as it helps to, instead of spending a lot of time figuring things out, it's a very quick,
Can show you the
easy way of doing
possibilities.
it. It's never perfect, it's not great, but it's a good thought starter, and it's great for A/B testing different versions. So it gives you different versions, and you always have to tweak it. It's not there yet. So you know that better than
Yes. So if I can just summarize like on 3 point of view that I got, you guys are thinking of it as an ally, not as a threat. You think it increases the productivity, and the context is key. So the better the context AI has, it can create a first draft, but you want the human in the loop, not like.
I think it shortens the amount of, at least for my use, I find that it shortens the amount of that mind dump, like that initial kind of throwing things out there, and then from there, all the fine tuning, that's where the strategy and that's where your expertise comes in. Yeah.
Can I just follow up to the same question? I think to your point, marketing is all about based
I'll give you a mic.
just to follow again on the same point, I think marketing is all about creativity, and I think we know AI in that department. It's not that creative. It can be very, let's say, knowledgeable, but not creative. Now, in front-end marketing, at the front end, I believe, and I mean, you can take my argument at face value, I believe that we need to see AI in the context of game theory, meaning that as soon as you go ahead as a player in an ecosystem and you resort to AI for marketing, and the other players will do the same, and things will go down. I mean, if there's a concept called AI resonance, this is actually what you're building, and you need to be careful.
Any other questions?
I mean, I've used AI even to start, what I do is I have my thoughts and then I put it in and I start using it to refine, right? So you can use it either way. I think it works well from having your own original thought and getting it to refine it. So there's multiple applications, and I think everyone is trying and testing and figuring out how best to harness it.
Thanks for validating my hypothesis there.
What AI systems are you using?
So, I mean, the ChatGPT for sure, and the upgraded versions is actually super good. But you've got AIs for video production, you've got
Photos, like
photos,
Yeah.
photos as well. So those are some of the more marketing-centric kind of AIs that we tend to use most often.
And even just as like a beginner tool, like if you're just starting, I'm like a huge Canva proponent. So I'm technically trained in all of the Adobe programs, and since I started using Canva with small business owners about 2 years ago, I hardly ever touch Adobe programs anymore because Canva is just, it's
Have you used the AI part of it?
Yeah, there's great AI. You can generate QR codes now in Canva. There's so many templates that are out there. So if you're really new to it and you just want to experiment on your own and try to get some things out there, Canva is a great tool to just get started, just to get some ideas and go from there. And then it's great to take those ideas, and then that's when, if you feel like you're at that point, then reach out to some marketing professionals to help kind of guide you through the rest. Because AI will only get you so far. But Canva is a great tool. I love Canva. So.
Can I ask? There's no other question. Something more about outreach. So in B2B SaaS, what I'm currently experiencing is there's a buyer persona and there is a user persona. Buyers might be VPs or directors and above. They have the funds to approved for a product that I'm building, for example, but the users are not those people. They're like actual teammates, like project managers, product owners, business analysts, those kind of people. How do you create a marketing strategy that kind of hits the right tone with both the groups? Or maybe if I have to prioritize as being a scrappy founder right now, it doesn't become crappy. How can I not waste my time reaching out to a wrong audience? Like, which should I just target one particular cohort, let's say users or user persona first, bring some like installs and like get some people on board, then start doing that? What would be the recommended approach? What do you guys think?
Can you repeat the question first?
So what I understand is that you've got the users and you've got the actual decision makers.
Yeah, let's put it that.
And so your question is, who should you be focusing your energy on?
Yes,
Right.
at least in the beginning of the.
Yeah. Now, see that there's from an awareness standpoint, your buyer, your decision maker also needs to know you as much as your user. Okay. So I would say from an awareness perspective, that's something that you need to address. As you go, when you're going from an acquisition perspective, you can talk to your users, right? And how do you empower them to go back and sell it to receivers, right? Because they will find the tool really great, but the one on top doesn't know about it. Either he relies on his people, depending on the kind of leader he is, or he'll tell them, I've never heard of it. It's a waste of money, right? So from an awareness standpoint, you need to hit both, and from an acquisition standpoint, you need to empower your users.
So, just to add to that.
Yeah, sure.
So, in enterprise organizations, the decision-making process is typically about 70 people, in large enterprises. In small and medium is different, so coming from an enterprise environment. So, obviously, you've got evaluators, you've got reviewers, you've got influencers, you've got product champions. You've got a whole host of different persona types. So what you were asking about is primary personas, right? In a large organization, you have many personas that impact that. In smaller organizations, obviously a smaller team, it's much more compact, right? So it depends, but I know you're mid-size, right?
Yeah.
So it's midway, you've got to tackle a bunch of them. You can't go just the buyer persona, because the buyer persona is typically the CIO, the CTO, or the CFO that authorizes it. But he's not going to evaluate the solution. The solution will come from an evaluator, a reviewer, someone really low down the totem pole, right? And so that's how it is. You have to figure that out. And as you go into different verticals, you're going to figure out the decision-making unit and who are those folks. But typically, the larger you go, the bigger the scale. It's about 70 people that you actually need to go after. Mid-size obviously is less, maybe 30 people at most, and then come down to startups, 3, 4, 5 people. But you need to influence all of them, because there are gatekeepers, there are people that have vested interests. It's political, it's never easy.
And that's why it's also important to define what's the size of the organization you want to target, right? So like he said, if it's a smaller organization, the decision maker is the one you can influence directly, right? And like he said, in an enterprise scenario, there's too many stakeholders. People who are not actively the buyers will still have a say in the whole thing.
Yeah, I think as we go up in that channel, just marketing wouldn't cut it, right? So enterprises would also rely on security posture, performance, and non-functional requirements as well. So then, it is something we have to think of as like a overall experience.
I think to piggyback on that too is one thing that I find that people struggle with when they're first learning marketing concepts is make sure that you've identified the course of action that you want the people you're marketing to take. So when you're identifying different buyer personas and different people, or maybe it's completely different, you may even have a product that you're marketing some B2B and some B2C, making sure that you understand what that funnel is and what that course of action is that you want people to take. Because otherwise your marketing efforts are kind of all over the place and you're not gonna see the results. So making sure that you have some lead capture capabilities so that you can, especially during the product testing phase, to make sure that you're accurately getting feedback and data, because in the tech industry, data is key, right? And same with marketing, understanding those analytics and understanding where your customers are or where your potential customers are and being able to tap into those markets, but then also making sure that you're clearly identifying what action you want them to take when you're doing your marketing efforts, otherwise your efforts will get lost. Any other questions? Yep.
Let's say for simple SMEs or say fit for purpose sort of ventures, I'm not going to say startups, let's say education. There are self-contained platforms like Kajabi, Teachable, Thinkific, etc. And obviously in web development like ShareTribe, etc. Do you think, from your perspective, do you think the marketing tools or enablers on those platforms are, fit for purpose or good enough for succeeding in a simple venture, not simple purpose-driven venture?
I think that there is a lot of marketing tools baked into a lot of different platforms right now. Even looking at just kind of some basic web platforms like Spotify definitely has a lot of great marketing channels factored in. When you get more into like the Wix and some of those sites, GoDaddy and things like that, not as much. Like the SEO is limited, the different marketing elements are somewhat limited. So I think if you have a strong platform that you're starting out with, it can definitely get you pretty far. When you venture into more like WordPress and some of the other platforms, some of the ones that you mentioned I couldn't quite hear, but yes, from a course perspective. Yeah, so I think I'm a big proponent that anywhere that you can gain credible knowledge is important. Like it empowers you as a business owner and as an entrepreneur to understand what's happening. Like even just this little bit of information that we're giving you here empowers you to make better decisions. So I think that a lot of those educational pieces, if you can find one that you resonate well with and that you feel isn't too slow, because sometimes they teach you different paces. I think it's great. I think it's a good tool. Just make sure that it's credible and that you're getting the right information. And then the other thing is to make sure that you're checking what the time frame was that those videos were created. Because if you're watching marketing videos from 5 years ago, it's definitely not going to be resonating today. Nothing to add. Anything else? No?
This is the time to be selfish. If you want to ask a very narrow question,
Yeah.
I'm sure there's something someone will learn.
I'm sorry, this is going to be a broader question. I'm going to piggyback on what he said with regards to AI and piggyback on the fact that you've got a trifecta there. Marketing in and of itself is changing. The fact that he asked a question with regards to AI and its role in marketing is an example of that. My understanding is that rate of change is only going to increase in the next few years. The kind of things that we're asking about today are going to change. The kind of buyers that are going to be influencing are going to change. How would you recommend somebody, that somebody could be a founder, it could be a CEO or even a CMO, stay in touch with what's resonating the most with their target audience so that they may be able to target them properly to make sure that you're getting the buy that you want, you're getting the kind of traction that you want, and you're ultimately building a brand that you want. How would you recommend you stay in touch with that rate of change that is going to increase over faster?
I think the question is coming more from the rate of acceleration of change, right? It's faster these days than it was ever before. And in my view, there's no substitute for test and learn, right? And that's what we always, in marketing, we do a lot of test and learn to figure out what's resonating, how things are changing. I would say that, we have to rely on more, the real-time data that we are getting to figure out how we can better change our marketing strategies to resonate with audiences given the pace of change. Right? So, anything more to add to that?
I think the main thing is just don't keep doing something just because you've always done it. Make sure that it's actually producing the results that you want. So making sure that whatever marketing principles you're putting into play, that you're actually checking those analytics, you're understanding what the results are for you. And some things, even though it does seem like everything's changing, there are some things that are true form, like your why always needs to be front of mind, right? Your the actions that you want people to take, that always is going to be the same, right? But you want to make sure that you're not just doing something just because someone told you should do it, but that you understand what the effect is of that marketing on your business.
Marketing man Melroy, any point of view on that?
So one of the key areas I work with is voice of the customer and voice of the market. So voice of the customer is when you have user advisory boards, user groups. In large enterprise organizations, that's what we have here. User groups that we talk to every quarter. We meet somewhere. Those can be the most amazing feedback mechanisms you can have. There are tools like Asana and AHA that allow you as product managers to get feedback from your customers as well. So there's specific toolkits that you can use, but the best thing is building a relationship with user groups, with buyers, with people, talking to people. That's all it is. You reward your best customers. They love it. They love it when you talk to them. They love it when you ask them for information. They feel wanted. The worst feedback I've got is you want to come to me when you want to bill me, or you want more money, or you want to increase your rates. That's the worst thing that a customer can say to you. You want customers, so we would have QBRs with customers. Our accounting team, I would send them out. They would go have quarterly business reviews with customers on the road constantly because they would find out what they need. Our account management team would actually generate more revenue than new business development. So it's the most fertile ground for customer group. I hope that answers the question.
Inside the startups, we also used to have customer advisory panels, right? Where we would recruit people who are like our ideal audience or even competitive products that they're using, and we bring them in from time to time to talk to them. That was a cheaper option than some of the other research tools which have become quite powerful these days. Like earlier, to get a piece of research, you'll have to wait for results, say 4 weeks, 6 weeks out. Now we've got what do you call that? The AI chats with people, and then they cluster the qualitative information. You can actually get qualitative at scale within 2 weeks, right? I mean, that again is a long time. I don't know, things might change even at a faster pace in the future. But as the environment changes, even our methods of accumulation of knowledge will change, right? And it will get better. So sometimes we are playing catch up. Sometimes we might have tools that will be ahead of the curve.
30 seconds. I have one follow-up question for you.
I don't know if he was on camera. If he didn't.
Yeah, we're fine. No one needs to see me. The one thing that I don't think anyone asked was like, what size? Like, what size? First of all, you're a product manager, correct? I'm assuming by your question.
Yeah.
Yes, awesome. What size of company? And what are you trying to build?
Very large organization.
Fairly large arena. Okay.
10,000 plus.
Okay. That's a big work. If you can't talk about it, that's cool.
Yeah, and mostly the design space.
Okay.
So we build design tools for engineers to build whatever they want.
Yeah. Awesome. So the one piece of advice I'm not going to say that is bad from anyone. I think this is all good advice, but also building out a product, because I'm a product manager, I can relate to with all these things. So I want to make sure I put my 2 cents in. Is the person who's closest to the customer is always going to win? And like, yes, advisory boards and QBRs are great. At the scale of where you're trying to get feedback in, it's as low down as you can get. Is it one-on-ones? If you can manifest one-on-ones with your customer, if you're solving tools, design tools for engineers, you can go talk to any engineer about what their problem is, and if it's like, hey, my design assets are never lined up, which I'm assuming is kind of the ballpark that we're going down, if the design assets are never left up, you can go throw a rock in Toronto and find 50 people to talk to. Like, that won't be hard to do, that's something you can do for $5 for a coffee. And that's the way that I would look at it. Like, how do you do something at the lowest level? Because you want to have unbiased feedback, you want to have feedback direct to you. I'm not saying that don't go through marketing, don't go through those other channels. In some organizations, you have to, judging by what you're trying to build. This is the way that I would approach it. And then on the flip side is learning who your customers are, what they're doing. You have to be that person. So, you know, if you're building engineering tools, like, are you playing with Copilot right now? Are you playing with these tools? How do you make sure that you're in those spaces? Follow those Reddit groups, follow all those things, and make sure that you're using those tools. Not necessarily that you need to use them, but you need to understand that your engineering team is talking about these specific 1 to 15 tools, and how do you layer your conversation into that, and how do you integrate, differentiate, stuff like that. So that's how I would approach it, just judging by what you said and trying to converge and try to give you. I build a lot of 0 to 1 products. I usually have no budget. I have very small teams, stuff like that, so how do you be scrappy around it? Again, in a 10,000 person organization, there might be a lot more red tape that you have to go through. You might not be able to talk to users, but if you can walk out of your office for 15 minutes, go find a couple engineers, I bet you that will be a very, very rewarding for you. Awesome. I want to make sure that we answer all the questions. Again, super selfish time. If you want to go super deep into something, you have marketing people here who want to answer very tactical questions. Now's the time you're basically getting free advice. So if you want to ask anything very, very specific.
How do you build your personal brand on LinkedIn and Twitter, or LinkedIn or any social media platform?
So with LinkedIn, it's always important, especially where you're an entrepreneur and you're going to be dabbling in different fields. LinkedIn is a great tool. So make sure that you have your LinkedIn profile updated, first of all, that you're not showcasing a past employment that you're no longer involved with. So making sure that you have it updated. There's 2 different modes that you can be in with LinkedIn. So you can be in regular mode or in creator mode. Creator mode, unless you're producing a lot of content or you're sharing a lot or you're doing a lot to amplify that, then I would say stick with the regular LinkedIn mode. But ways that you can expand is definitely with LinkedIn groups. So making sure that you're joining groups of like-minded people so that you can gain some of that knowledge from other people. Like, you don't need to reinvent the wheel on a lot of things that you're doing. If you can glean knowledge from someone else or learn from someone else's mistakes, that's a great way to do that. So LinkedIn groups, finding groups that maybe not even locally, but worldwide, that do the same types of things that you're doing and solve the same problems that you're having. So I think that's a big one. And then also just making sure that if you're open to collaboration or if you're open to work as well, that you're properly identifying what the different things are that you have experience in or that you want to be known for, right? Because sometimes it's easy, if you've worked in a lot of different areas, to have kind of a laundry list of all the things that you know that you're kind of an expert in. But narrow down and really focus on those keywords and those things that you want to be known for, like where do you want to go with your career or with the position that you're doing. But I would definitely say LinkedIn groups.
I think one of the headline, many people underestimate the power of the headline. It has to be, it's not your last destination. It's not certain abstract things that people love to call themselves, evangelists, whatever, right? It's about being very crisp and clear about I help so and so do what, by when, right? If you're a business person, you have to have that tangible value prop right up front there. The other thing, I talked about coming up with your a social strategy. You could do that for LinkedIn, right? What's your overall story? What's the different chapters that you want to talk about? What's your tone of voice? What's your communities? Talked about the communities. And then what you can start doing is lining up your posts, right? Like if you really want to be active on LinkedIn, you need to be, ideally people say that you need to be there 3-4 times a week, but minimum two times a week you need to be posting stuff, right? But what I found quite useful as well is collabs, right? So for example, I volunteer with an organization called Ascend, and they are all about helping Pan-Asian for professionals further their career in Canada. So as a part of that, I created a content strategy which causes me to interview CEOs of different companies, right? And so when I interview the CEO, the video is posted, I get the mileage with his company, right? And then they're going to hashtag everyone else, and that's important as well. So there's ways of how you can chase a mic even on LinkedIn, right? We are here chasing one mic today, but you can do that on LinkedIn as well.
And also, even just as much as adding people that are in this room, like if you've met someone today that's helpful, or that you might want to work with in the future, add them on your LinkedIn group, because you never know where their network will take you as well. Last questions?
Do we have a LinkedIn group for build innovation?
Yep.
Yep.
Build innovation. Join the LinkedIn group.
Yep, thank you for the pitch. If you go to the website, it's on there. I'll also just post it as well.
And also add Mike Shaws.
Thank you.
I think too, one other thing for LinkedIn too is that if you're trying to show that you're an expert in the space, it's okay to reach out to past people that you've worked with and ask for recommendations as well. You can send them a recommendation link and say, hey Lauren, remember when we worked on this project together? I really enjoyed working with you. Would you mind leaving me a recommendation so I can show my expertise in this area? And then in return, offer them a LinkedIn recommendation as well. Like, we're here to scratch each other's backs, right?
I just want to add something to this, right? Like, it totally depends on whether you are targeting LinkedIn for your personal profile or for your business profile, right? So it's the audience you want to target, like that is to take to mind first before you go about putting any post in the place in those cases, right? If you're targeting like your personal audience, like looking for an employment or so, a recommendation and things like that works out beautifully. If you're looking at like that for business, it's a different ballgame altogether, right? It goes back to the person in mind who's asking, where do you start? But you have to start somewhere, right? You start at the CEO level, the C-level people you want to target. There's different type of content you want to create for that one, you want to be part of that. Or if you're looking at attracting jobs, like you're giving jobs as part of your organization, you're looking at recruiting people, that post is different. Right? So it depends on the target audience which you need to keep in mind before you looking at post.
Last call? Yeah?
Sorry for asking too many questions.
Go for it.
Not ashamed of it. How do you deal, first of all, what are the strategies you would recommend for cold outreach? Like, let's say you create some content, you have some stuff to share, but the very first interaction, where would you get some database? I know there are some services, Apollo and stuff like that. You can get list of emails, put it in a CRM, automate that stuff. But what works, what doesn't work? And the second part of it, when people don't respond, like they ghost you, or how do you deal with that kind of rejection or ignorance? You think like, oh, I have a great product, I have a great story to tell, and it should definitely work for you because I've researched, you are in my ICP, you are in the target audience that I want to target. How do you deal with that? Like, as a founder, I really want to make sure my team sees that we are putting effort, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Any thoughts on that?
So can I ask you a question before you leave the mic?
Yes.
When you talk about cold outreach, what volumes are you doing in terms of reaching out?
I'm just going to start that now. I'm
Right.
building that marketing and sales team right now. So we just started creating a couple of blogs. So I have 3 blogs up on my website. My wife, she's also from marketing. She actually was just posting LinkedIn. But generally what I do, I just search for personas and then I just drop a message in their inbox. Right? And half of the time I get some response. Some people say, okay, just set up a time, but it doesn't convert into that. So thinking about that.
I'd say, see, when you talk about cold outreach, typically email campaigns come to mind, right? And the response rate for emails is very, very low. Right? It's 0.2% or something like that. So you have to do those large numbers, you send out 1,000 every day or whatever, that's when you start getting the response. But when you're talking about how do you do that on LinkedIn, that's very different. I think once you've done the cold emails and you're getting some response and you understand who those personas are, you can take those people on and start having conversations on LinkedIn, right? Because you know that they are more qualified, so to speak, right? And on LinkedIn outreach, you cannot do too many messages because LinkedIn Premium gives you a limited number of outreach, right? Which you can circumvent using a tool called Expandi.io.
Can you spell that?
Expandi, expandi.io, right? And that so you can send more than like 100, 200 messages a day. But I think there are some spam implications to that as well. So you have to be careful about Castle when it comes to email, right?
Yeah,
I know you were going to jump on me for that one. And even on Expandi.io, I think there's a limitation to how many you can send in a day, right? But I think the LinkedIn would be more, more meaningful conversations, the ones who are really interested. Whereas cold outreach, like you said, you can get lists from Apollo.io, Zoom Info, any of these guys, and you just got to be very strong with your value prop, right? So when you send out emails also, if it's a very generic email, too long emails, they don't respond. So you've got to test and learn what really gets them to convert, right? So we test many different headlines, we test offers, right? Until you start getting the right kind of response.
I think just to piggyback on that, I think no matter what social media platform you're looking at, one thing that's changed a lot in advertising over the last year is that you need to kind of take your social media advertising in like a 3-step approach. So the first time that you're reaching out, you're figuring out who your target audience is, right? Who are people that are going to benefit from whatever the solution is that you're offering before you're even really introducing your brand to them. So you're basically putting out an ad that's going to say, okay, do you shop online, right? And it could be a very broad group. Maybe you want to kind of narrow that down a little bit more, but you basically cast a net first to just try to gather that information. So say you're on Instagram and that's the format that you're using. So you're going to cast your net first and you're going to use that for a week or so, run an Instagram ad. Then you're going to take that insight and those people that have clicked on that ad, and then you'll tone it down another notch and say, okay, do you shop online for groceries, right, or whatever it might be. And then you're going to find out from there, then you're going to introduce your brand and the solution that you offer with an offer along with it, right? So it gives you a more targeted perspective, whereas if you just put out an Instagram ad for whatever your solution is, but you haven't really coaxed people in, you're not really having your own audience, then you're going to cast a bigger net, then you're not going to get the number of people.
Makes a lot of sense.
Any other questions?
It's more of something that I wanted to is, for a startup. Yeah, for a startup, it's important to create the brand awareness part of it. Like, one of the things which can work is writing articles in LinkedIn, because we're talking about LinkedIn, that works as well, right? Like, it's all about like people knowing initially. It may not be turning out into a sale, a cold call, like, or a cold email going out, like, the feedback you will get there, or somebody going to reply back to you is going to be very easy, as Sean is saying. However, you're creating awareness that there is a product like this which is on, right? Especially at the stage where you are, like that's what is important.
And I think content marketing is
Yeah.
very important.
I think along Dan's point too, another option that you have is creating some sort of a guide, an ebook that we use for like lead capture, right? So you're basically giving people some free information so that hopefully in there you're implanting things that beliefs that you can throw in there, so the information that you can provide to hopefully guide them to come back to you, right? So for example, if you have a software solution that's offering X, Y, and Z, you might put such and such guide to such and such, right? And then you kind of map out, okay, what are some of the things that people need to know? And then ultimately at the end, the solution is to use this software to be able to make that a lot simpler. So using tools like that is really important in kind of gathering that content. And that's where, kind of circling back to AI, in the kind of trying to take out the bulk of creating that content, you can use AI to kind of get some of those content pieces and then tailor it to your brand and to your solution.
I mean, if you've got a B2B audience and it's not very high value that you're selling, account-based marketing is one of the, but that's paid, right? Where you can do full funnel approach. So on LinkedIn as well, you can do awareness, and then to what Lauren said, the mid funnel is actually offering them a value, like what do you call that? Lead magnet, right? And then finally it's the offer for sale. So you can do a full funnel approach even on LinkedIn, but it's expensive.
But more targeted usually.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you my 2 cents, and then I'm going to wrap it up for questions here. I feel like a lot of them have been answered. We have like 45 minutes-ish, I'm assuming that this will end when the game's over, so we'll have a little bit over. My 2 cents into yours, just because I know a little bit deeper about what you're doing, stuff like that. Like for me, like generic advice goes back to where's your customer living, what are they doing, right? The cheapest forms of this is live where your customers live and provide value there. The benefit you have right now is you're playing in AI. Well, every single person in the world wants AI content right now. So go to the 15 popular YouTube channels, the 15 popular blogs, like Silicon Valley Product Group and all these places that want some sort of AI content, and you can provide content. Hey, part of it is use my tool, but here's how AI is affecting product management. Here's how this is working, and then they want that content, you're gonna exchange the content for exposure. So that's kind of one way. And like going through LinkedIn and finding the people who are interested in product management and AI is a good target group to be able to go down. I think just like outside looking in, not discounting anything else, like I think you're a little early to buy lists, you're a little bit early to buy Instagram ads, like you're still trying to find product market fit, you're trying to figure out where to deploy capital. You need to find that first before you go spend $1,000 on a list or $1,000 on an ad campaign. It's what can I go through now, find out where my target customers are, exploit that as much as you can, because you're going to get feedback from them as well about like, hey, you know, you're missing X feature. Well, cool, that was a big thing I didn't think about before I actually go to market. I need to solve that problem, and then actually to go through, get traction, get your customers in, and then you can exploit that success with the success of like, I know my exact target customer. Let me go run an Apollo search, pull up the 300 people that are like this. I can go through on LinkedIn, run that, Instagram, run that. That's how I would look at it. But like, depending on what scale your company's at, right? Startup, zero budget, you're spending no money. Your only capital right now outside like, no, I don't actually know this, but is your time. So like looking at that is how do you scale the unscalable until you can hit a point where you get revenue in and then go do those other factors. That's my 2 cents on this. Awesome. Okay, so first of all, round of applause for our panelists. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sean, for the appreciate this. They'll be here networking and stuff like this. I do have 5 slots open. I'm putting a cap on it just because I cut someone off last time and I feel really bad. If you are building something, if you have a pitch, if you have an ask, if you have anything that you think that someone in this room can either help with or connect you through, now's the time. So if you have something that you're working on, you need to find a co-founder, you have a problem to solve, if you want to make a marketing connection, anything like that, now's your 5 minutes of fame. I'll give you maybe not 5 minutes because that'll be a little bit of a long one, but let's say a minute each for five pitches. Talk about your company, talk about yourself, talk about your cat if you want. I have no preference. 5 minutes, we're going to open it up. So if anyone wants to come up and talk about what they're building and have a call to action, let's do it.
I'll just take the first spot, but this time I'll give others.
Yeah. No self-promoters here. All right, you might have to break the ice.
But before I start pitching, I want to know how many of you already know and or heard me talking about my product. I know some familiar pieces, so I'm not gonna tune it out. Alright, so half of the room already knows. But for those who don't know, I'm building an AI-powered software for project management teams.
First of all, who are you?
My name is Mayank. Thank you. You're the good monitor. My name is Mayank. I live in Milton. Been like, I think this is my second summer here. Really excited. And thanks for hosting this. I think I always look forward to coming here. So, anyways, regardless of like those who don't, who have already heard about my product, it's called Fast Doc. So what we do is we integrate inside your project management tools and think of Jira, Azure DevOps, Asana, Monday.com. We are starting with Jira because that's the largest project management tool out there. So what we do is we take all the raw project management data, like your user stories, epics, and tasks. That information, we using our AI algorithms, we convert into customer-facing communications. So think of your marketing communications, technical documentation, health center articles, release notes, all of that. And we don't say like we do it perfectly. We always emphasize that we want humans in the loop. Just because I was validating with marketing folks here, we are not at that stage where we can produce full-fledged articles that you can just trust and it will be hitting the mark. So we help with first draft creation. That process typically takes like a couple of hours or days at minimum, like when teams spend a lot of time, product teams explain what is being built or what was the requirement initially, and then marketers take that to market. And we help the marketing teams and customer-facing teams create those assets automatically in seconds. Our average generation time is actually 10 seconds, right? So it's actually quite interesting. Do check us out. We just posted a blog on LinkedIn. So if you go to LinkedIn, find fasttalk.io and like our post and follow us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been fun to watch your progression so far. When you first joined, it was an idea, and we've gone through and we built like first generation. I say we just
launched actually on 10th of April.
There we go. That's a big milestone.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Thanks for Ryan. He gave us our first 4-star review. So thank you so much. I love the community support.
Awesome. I'm going to be a little bit selfish here. Did you guys meet through Milk?
Yeah. Last event we were sitting next to
Love it. I'm going to take full credit for that. I'm glad you guys met. No, I'm joking. Congratulations on the launch. That's always impressive. Anyone else? Self-promoting, want to talk about their business? 1, 2, 3. Awesome. So that's 4. We got one more room. So we'll start here. We'll work our way this way.
Thank you.
It's got a folder and everything. This is really
No,
efficient.
just
Oh, okay.
it's a security blanket.
You don't trust your seatmate?
No, he's got another one. No, so Rex EMR, this is what I'm talking about today. So Raj is the CEO, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Rex EMR. It's a company that's been built over the last 4 years, and we only recently, a year ago, gone commercial. So it's bulletproof. It's a product that's utilized for the medical healthcare sector, for specialists, healthcare specialists, so doctors specifically. And my proposition for you is anyone that wants to earn $500, come talk to us. It's a simple ask as introducing us, a warm introduction to a clinic, a doctor, a friend, a relative, or whoever. We do a demo, we talk to them about it because it's a product, it's a platform that is utilized by doctors to reduce the administrative work that they do. It's a whole system, it's a platform. They use it for billing, they use it for patient records, they use it for prescriptions, they use it for a multitude of tasks that they do within the clinic. So rather than waste the opportunity here, I'm asking because everybody knows somebody who's a doctor, whether it's your own doctor or you have somebody as a friend or family member, and it's a simple ask. The cost for a doctor to utilize our subscription service is $3,000 a year. It's pretty insignificant for a doctor based on how much they earn. They right now utilizing a lot of different disparate services. This helps them bring it all into one. So that was, thank you.
Awesome. For everyone who pitched to, either wants to just send me a LinkedIn message or Facebook message or anything like that, please feel free to send me your information. I'll make sure that gets posted. Part about going back to the support from the first couple of slides is obviously we want to go through and share these stories. So feel free to send it across. We can get, again, talking about finding your target customer and stuff like that, like posting it on Built-in Innovation will help get some of that business because I need the content to be able to do this, therefore it all kind of flows in. So please feel free to send it along. So next up, we also need one more. We have one more on deck and we need one more for number 5, but yeah. Go.
Hi, I am Avi. I am a Salesforce champion from 9 to 5, and then software engineer / entrepreneur after 5. Get the point. So my idea is that okay, I built few side projects, but then when it comes to marketing, when it comes to SEO, when it comes to content generation, I am not as creative as I am with writing code. So so I set to solve that problem of how do I generate content. Now AI can do that. That's awesome. But then, as we all just spoke about, it's not relevant. It's not specific to what you're doing. So just for an example, if I'm an insurance company, I want to have my content tailored to the current trends and current looking up to my competitors. So the way I would generate content for myself is look at what competitors are doing and then take inspiration from that content and then try to build something for myself. And I basically, in the pursuit of mastering that process, I built this pipeline of a software scraping the content from your competitor websites. It gives you the SEO meta tags for those content, and then you can either select the contents and generate an AI can generate your content based on the blogs you have selected, or it can basically look through all the blogs and come up with the content that's basically looking at your competitors' contents to come up with. So in essence, it's doing exactly the same thing that I would do, but then I don't have to go on that creative drive to build that content. I can just proofread and make it more human. So yeah, reach out to me if you want to learn more about it, and then maybe we can see how that goes. Thank you.
One clarifying question: are you looking for a user, or are you looking for a marketer to help you?
Right now it's in beta. I have the whole pipeline working. I want to kind of see what's the product market fit.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Thank you, thank you. Next up. Hired a temporary cameraman.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I run with my own camera crew, you know, and it makes
Yeah.
things a little bit
There you
easier.
go.
Okay, awesome. I need to hold both of these.
Yeah, one's for here, one's online.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Rule, and I run a company here in Milton called Evolution Data. So we used to be called iLink Wireless. We changed the name to Evolution Data. Just a little closer. Because what we do and what we transact is we sell data. So not the data that you would traditionally think, like we're not taking people's information and selling their information online. We just sell connectivity that allows devices, let's say their tablets, modems, sensors, etc., to connect to the internet. So things that are out moving around, if you can imagine a tablet, a field service guy comes to your house, he's doing filling in a form, doing some work, etc. He's going to have a tablet with him, and that tablet is going to have a SIM card, just like the phone in everybody's pocket here. So what we do is we do that on the business level. So we're selling that to businesses that need to connect things to the internet and allow them to do their work while they're out in the field. So it's a pretty straightforward, simple business. We do a lot of advertising, telling people what we do, and we're in a whole bunch of different industries, from construction to irrigation to renewable energy, anything you can imagine where they have stuff in the field collecting data. And the cool thing that I think, and again, I'm all over LinkedIn, kind of promoting the message, speaking the doctrine, etc. But one of the things that is very exciting for us is AI is a really boom area, because AI is now generating a lot of data, all the sensors that we provide generate a lot of data that AI now can use and leverage. So we're going to see a big shift in what we do, where AI now is going to help us be a little bit more efficient in what we do on the evolution data side. So I guess again about our company based in Milton, we're a relatively small outfit. We've been around since 2015, so quite a while, and we've not too close. And we're I'm happy to be here. I've been following Mike online, kind of seeing the Milton education community grow. Hopefully there's no relief game next month. Should I dare say it? Hopefully we have the room filled, and we can have a lot of people learn about the vibrant community of Milton, because we're located in Milton here as well. I'm hearing a lot of people in marketing, so it's good to hear from you folks and what you do and how you add some uniqueness to the different spin. I want to talk to the gentleman about getting that information off of SEO and going to someone's website. I knew I would get into all of this, but there we go, take two. So, anyways, thanks for the opportunity to speak and tell everybody a little bit about what Evolution Data does and how we're trying to help customers really connect to the connected world. That's our little slogan that we say. Thanks, everyone.
Of course. Awesome. We have one spot left open. I'm going to leave it open for 10 seconds. There we go. We have a taker. Perfect. This is the last one. After this, we will wrap up and we will continue networking. I think there's a lot of good connections that have been made here, a lot of good connections to be made. So after this, we will wrap it up. But you are our closer.
So I just want to introduce myself. It's my first time. Nothing really much to say. I'm really glad I make it today for the whole traffic and goal is to build internal people. I'm in real estate business as a real estate professional, working in different areas, selling and buying and new construction and different type of, mostly for residential. My office is shops at Don Mills, which we have 3 offices, rolling page signature. One is located in Mississauga, so most of my destination, I will say Caledon, Brampton, Melton, Mississauga. Same time, I work on the other side, on the east, which is Coastal Lakes, waterfront properties and farms, and Niagara Falls, whatever it takes. So I'm glad you guys looks like it's a great community. First when I came in, I was driving around and saying it doesn't look like it's a networking place and something like that. And these guys were so excited. I said, I don't think it's the right spot for me. And I asked the bartender, so they pointed in here. So I'm glad I make it. And yeah, very much. And my name is actually Irina, my last name is Marchenkova. I'm from Russia, from Moscow, and I'm about 12 years in Canada. So I wish to eventually meet everybody of you and to know more about what everybody does and just keep connected. And thank you so much for organizing.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. I'll say everyone has to stay here. When you buy your second house or your vacation home, then you can use her. If you're going to buy in Milton again, please. We like to have you guys here. I mean, obviously I'm joking, but we like to have you guys here. I like all the Milton nights or Milton, I don't know what to call it. Anyways, so thank you all for coming out. I think this was a good one. Please give me any feedback, positive, negative. I want more to hear the negative than anything else. I want to know how to improve. Anything that we can do better, please let me know. We're always looking for improvements or product mindset on how to go build something. But just thank you overall. Thank you all for coming out. We can watch the end of the Leafs game and do some networking. Again, a lot of good connections here. Make sure to add some people on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a QR code feature in the top right. If you press it, you can scan it. The business cards and stuff like that. Very, very easy. Connect, mingle, finish the rest of the food. There are some takeout boxes. I'm not sure how much food is actually left. Feel free to take some home. Yeah, thank you all for coming out, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.